going on, everybody, and welcome to my first mechanical keyboard custom build. So let's go ahead and jump right in it. All right, so starting out, we have some unboxing to do. Okay, so all the items that we see right now came from KBD Fans. So as you can see right here, everything is in bubble wrap, which was great to protect all the items and make sure everything is in pristine condition. And as usual, I will have everything linked down in the description below. Okay, so taking a look inside the first box, we have our stabilizers, our switches, our brass plate for 65% form factor, and then our KBD67 Rev 2 PCB. We also added a mask, which was really nice. And so next we have our rubber feet and our screws, and we have the case that I ordered. So I went with this purple case, which is the 564 B stock case. Okay, so I decided to go with Gatorun ink yellow switches. These are a linear switch, and I decided to go with genuine cherry screw-in stabilizers. So initially, I thought about lubing my switches, but I decided not to. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lube my stabilizers because you wanna make sure you don't have rattly stabs. I'm going to be using the Krytox 205 Grade 0 to lube my stabs. And here's just a quick clip that I have from a video that I already uploaded. So I'll leave that video in the description below and showing you how to lube your stabilizers. Now keep in mind that won't be a tutorial, that's just how I did it. So I'm just going through the process and lubing my housings and lubing the wire to make sure everything is well lubricated but not over lube because you don't want them to be sluggish. And also make sure I clip the little legs inside the housings to make sure I'm getting the best out of my stabs. Okay, so here I am testing my PCB, and as you can see, this PCB only includes a single LED color. However, you are able to add some more LED lighting underneath the switches. Once I confirmed that the PCB works, I started installing my stabilizers to make sure they are not rattling and they are lubricated just the way I would like them. And another thing you want to make sure is that you do test out the switches, make sure you solder them in the correct place because this is a soldering PCB. So that's something I didn't do at first because I made a mistake and soldered in the switch in the wrong spot. So yeah, this is a good time to test that out and avoid that beginner's mistake, but that's okay if you do, as I just learned from it and will apply that method to my next keyboard build. So I'm going through and just making sure the stabs are properly working and they are inserted correctly, which they are. So now I am installing my key switches so I can start soldering. All right, so here we are soldering in the switches, and to be honest, at first I was very intimidated by this, but I assure you, with no soldering background, this is my very first time soldering. There's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. So just make sure you just take your time, just have a little bit of patience with it, and make sure you watch plenty of tutorials or videos of how to solder as I did. But again, very easy, and all I'm pretty much doing is feeding my leaded wire into the soldering iron to create that concave shape so that the switches are firing off and have a connection with the PCB. So pretty much all you're going to do is continue to do this process with each key switch, of course, and make sure everything is nicely covered. You're not able to see the pin. So one more thing to note is make sure you don't keep your soldering iron on your PCB for too long. I try not to leave the iron on for more than 2 to 3 seconds. That way I don't burn the PCB. Another important tip is to make sure you have all of your equipment before you begin soldering. It's very important to have some type of ventilation or fume extractor, which I am using off to the side. You're not able to see it in the video. And also make sure you're constantly cleaning off your tip in between soldering. So you will notice that I am putting the iron over onto a sponge or some brass material to clean off that burn solder. So that's very important when you are soldering your switches. You don't want that buildup of wire and kind of have a messed up concave or possibly damage the PCB or switch. All right, so here we are testing out the key switches with Switch Hitter. I will leave this link down in the description so you can check it out and see if you would like to use that for when you're building your keyboard. But pretty much all we're doing is making sure we solder each pin correctly and each key switch is properly firing off. You want to make sure you don't have any chattering going on in the keyboard. If you happen to have any chattering or the key switch is just not firing off, as I did experience, all you're going to have to do is desolder, which is a pain, but it's not that bad when you are learning to build keyboards. So after this testing, I am good to go. So now that we have completed that, we can move on to getting the case ready. So pretty much the first thing you want to do is put the rubber feet, bump on feet, at the bottom of the case. You don't want to damage it or potentially scratch your keyboard or anything else you have your case laying on. So that's pretty much what I'm doing here. As you seen earlier, you get 4 of them and I'm just placing them on each corner of the case. Okay, so on the inside of the case, there are 6 screws that I have to unscrew to lay the PCB on the inside, as this is a tray mount build. So the PCB and plate will be held in place using these screws. So right now, I'm just pretty much making sure I align the plate and the PCB along with the case. This wasn't the perfect fit as these parts were ordered separately. So I had to make sure the USB-C port was aligned to the opening of the case. That way I didn't have any trouble with connecting my cable to the PCB. So once I finished and got everything aligned, I started putting on my keycap set and I went with the Tai-Hao full set. This is no special set that I chose. I just purchased this from Mechanical Keyboards Incorporated. So I just liked the color of this keycap set and I just wanted to go pretty much outside my comfort zone. But you can see I ran into an issue. This is what I mentioned earlier when I said make sure you test out the key switches and the placement of them, because I got all the way to the end of it and realized that I put this key switch in the wrong spot. So I had to desolder. Although the PCB was working, it was just a pain in process. So at this point, I just got very frustrated and took a break from the build. So in the midst of noticing that this key switch was in the wrong place, I noticed a few other words, so I fixed those as well. And to add to that, I ordered the wrong keycap set, so I had to find another keycap set that would fit the 65% form factor. You will see that there are a few keycaps that look quite different from the others, but not too bad. But that's one more thing that I did make a mistake on. As it is coming, it's my first time, so you may make this mistake as well, but it's just something to keep in mind. And here it is, my first custom mechanical keyboard build. I'm super excited at how it turned out. It's pretty much what I envisioned. It's very close to what I had in mind. Although I ran into a few hiccups, it was a very fun build and very rewarding. The second keycap set, I wanted to do a sound comparison and see how much difference. So go ahead and take a listen and let me know what you think. So not too much of a difference to me. I barely notice it. I really can't complain, as I was very thankful to find this second set of keycaps by HK Gaming. So this set came relatively close to my Tai-Hao ABS set, although I had to use blank keycaps. Again, it worked out, along with that right shift that I also had to change out as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this typing test. I really can't say how much I really enjoy typing on those Gatorun ink yellows. That switch is so good. Like, at the price, I cannot complain with the typing experience you will see and maybe enjoy just as much as I do. So as expected, I really enjoyed building this keyboard. For it to be my first custom mechanical keyboard build, I'm quite impressed with how it turned out, and it really has inspired me to continue to build more, as I hope this one has inspired you as well. So yeah, that about wraps it up with this video. If you have any ideas for your own keyboard build, be sure to leave them down in the comment section below. Also, if you like this keyboard build and this content, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for more content. And I will see you guys in the next video.